And we're live, Left.
Okay, thank you. We'll call the meeting to order. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So
So
moved.
made.
Okay, that was Jennifer and Joe, I believe. Okay, so we have to do a roll call to approve that?
Yes. Trustee Brown,
Yes,
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nahn,
Yes.
Trustee Wilchermuth,
Yes.
okay. Then we will go right to 5A, presentations.
Trustee Brown.
Yes,
So at this time, we are going to be presenting to our outgoing trustees. I want to start with Trustee Jennifer Wilchermuth. We have a beautiful plaque here. The governing board of Cotati-Roanoke Park Unified School District expresses sincere appreciation to Jennifer Wilchermuth for 8 years of dedicated service as a school board trustee, 2012 to 2020, which we will be delivering. It's kind of hard to get it on camera. But I want to thank Jennifer for her words of wisdom and her support during this short period of time that we've gotten to know each other. I've always appreciated your tips and your positive outlook in terms of promoting our schools and and putting a positive light out there so that we can build our community. So I want to thank you for your years of service.
Thank you.
We are also presenting a plaque to Mr. Tim Nahn. The governing board of education of Cotati-Roanoke Park Unified School District expresses sincere appreciation to Tim Nahn for 4 years of dedicated service as a school board trustee. Although we have only worked a short time together, Tim, I appreciate your words of encouragement and your support as we've been getting to know each other these last few months, and we really appreciate your service to the community of Cotati-Roanoke Park.
Gracias.
okay. Thank you, Myra.
Excuse me, President Brown, Dr. Perez. We
Yeah.
did have two public comments for the outgoing trustees.
Okay,
So
So-
you ready? I'll play them right now.
okay.
Thank you, Kirby.
In our school community. Thank you for asking. Amy Miller. Good evening. I want to thank Trustee Nahn for being a tireless advocate for students, parents, and staff in our school community. Thank you for asking critical questions and being one of 2 board members who are willing to stand up to the former tyrannical superintendent. You will certainly be missed. I think it truly shows your character that you quickly congratulated your opponent, Michelle Wing, when she won the election. It also speaks volumes that a handful of her supporters have continued to insult and criticize you even after her victory. I only hope that she is not like those supporters and that she will continue to be in a level of professionalism and objectivity that the current Board of Trustees has demonstrated when conducting business. It seems to me that there is no way to screen the authenticity of public comments in this virtual board meeting venue. If we were in person, the same individual would not be able to get up and comment repeatedly, unless it was specific agendized items. I believe that the same 1 or 2 people are submitting comments under different pseudonyms to create the illusion that the majority of the community feel a certain way. It is evident in how similar the content of public comments has been in the last 2 months. Finally, the frequent claims that Trustee Nahn and Gillies are not who they claim to be because they do not turn on video for meetings is completely laughable. Anyone who has actually attended an in-person Board of Trustees meeting would recognize their distinct voices immediately. What a petty thing to focus on, and it comes across as grasping for straws. Tracy Farrell. Thank you, Jen, for your many years of dedicated service. Few know how hard you've been working for the students of Cotati-Roanoke Park, but Farrell. Thank you, Jen, for your many years of dedicated service.
I'm sorry, it looks like the audio got messed up on that one. I could post it later though.
I can read it if you like.
Please.
Thank you, Jen, for your many years of dedicated service. Few know how hard you have worked for the students of Cotati Rona Park, but every student has benefited. The district will miss your voice and your leadership. Tracy Farrell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So last week I withheld my comments for these two board members, and I'd like to share that now. First, to Jennifer, I want to thank you for 8 years of service. I know how hard it is and how hard you've worked. And I want to especially thank you for the bond, your efforts on the bond. We have a lot of wonderful facilities now, which you're proud of and I'm proud of and the district is. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. For Tim Nam, Tim, I want to thank you. I got to know you better. And I got to get an understanding being your chauffeur for the last 4 years. And and understanding, and even, you know, as your vision impairedness, blindness went from, you know, seeing, you know, hardly anything to hardly no vision at all. I can't imagine, well, I can imagine, and I appreciate the effort that you put forth to be a board member and to learn the skills necessary to read the documents and to participate in whatever. So you've made me understand, you know, how hard you fought for special ed kids and for those with not the same benefits that our other students had, type of thing. So I really appreciate that. And I want to share one story that as we go through life, things just sink in my brain. And I can think back when I was in school in 5th grade, I'm a teacher, and there was one event that I went with Tim that's in my brain completely. Is when Tim and I went to the state championship game at the ranch, the football game. And some of you may or may not know, Tim was a linebacker in high school. He played football. So we went, and because it was Zydeco and there were so many people and so much noise, we sat on the visitor side, and I narrated the game to Tim, you know, play by play, what was happening. And pretty soon, about halftime, Tim was narrating the game back to me because of his experience in playing and hearing the broadcaster. He kept saying, oh, that person made a tackle again. A lot of the things that I didn't even realize. So that's an amazing thing that sunk in my mind. How you've adapted and so I appreciate that, and I appreciate your fact that you hung in there due to your disability, and you did a good job and you've done a lot for the district. So thank you to Jennifer and thank you to Tim for all your work. I know it takes a lot to be a board member, and there's a lot of effort that goes in there. So thank you for serving our community and serving our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Lev.
Okay. So then we'll go on to the consent agenda. So can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nahn,
Yes.
Trustee Wilchmuth,
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go to 7A, hybrid planning update. Myra?
Yes, we are providing the board tonight with an update on the work that the district is doing to prepare for reopening. Tonight, I've invited our principals to present also with me.
Okay.
Anyway, I want to remind everyone that these are draft schedules and that we still are working to get community input on them. So what you see before you is a draft where we're discussing it with different stakeholders. So we really wanted to talk a little bit about the benefits and some of the challenges, as well as how we're going to go about getting stakeholder input to get final approval of the schedules. And we're looking at different things and also other, what other districts are doing around us.
From Myra,
Um,
I don't want to
yes.
interrupt, but I think we had one public comment. Is it on this subject?
It
Yeah.
is.
It is. Should we do that first before you launch into your
Absolutely.
presentation? Okay. So Kirby, can you play that? Where'd he go?
I'll play it right now.
Okay.
He ran really fast.
He ran fast. He's hiding.
Sam D. I hope that the district is considering more than just a misguided, completely out of touch teachers union opinion when looking at hybrid. After the article last week, where the teachers were voting to strike, it was evident just how the teachers feel like their voices are the only and most important. Many of the parents they serve are out of work, or trying to work while their students are home. These parents are frustrated, wearing multiple hats, and students are falling behind. The majority of what's being done by students is the parents' responsibility, even though they are not trained, or in many cases, equipped to help students. Most teachers have cut their instructional times or live times by half. They get to work from home and are often online live for students less than an hour a day. I get not all teachers are like this, but choosing now to vote for a strike shows how tone-deaf the teacher union is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Myra?
Okay. So we can go back to our presentation.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, no,
We can go to the next slide. You've seen this slide often. It's not new. We're still at that widespread level in Sonoma. And quite frankly, when I looked at the state counties, there's probably maybe 3 counties throughout the state. So the state's pretty much all in purple. So we know that that once we're in the purple tier, we're not authorized to open, and it's really hard to identify a date for reopening if we remain in the purple level. Where are we now? The next slide, please. So we remain in the purple level, and I'm sure you've heard that there's a shelter-in-place order that's that may be implemented in the next few days. What the prediction is at about mid-December, Sonoma will go into shelter-in-place, and we have 5 Bay Area counties. In fact, the county I live in that is already shut down from starting on Sunday, December 6th through the 4th of January. So we're starting to see that shutdown, and it really is connected to ICU beds and the increasing cases and capacity for each county. With this new order, schools will not be affected. So if the schools are open or have small groups of students returning, they will continue to attend at this time. The school waiver process has been currently put on hold because of the shelter-in-place order. Regular symptom screenings are still recommended, and we are still doing everything to make sure that we're notified should we have any COVID cases or any possible staff members testing positive. Of course, you've seen this. This is a reminder that once we get to that red tier, which is where we really want to go, we would have to implement 6-foot distancing in classrooms and playgrounds, the face coverings for students, daily health screenings, a single point of entry or exit, so stations where people would be able to enter the site, enhanced cleaning and disinfection and isolation areas. So those continue to be the criteria, and they haven't changed much, which is good. And that's what we're using to plan for reopening. Next. So since my last report, we are currently in the process of installing 119 ventilation systems throughout the district. And this is phase 1. We will not be completed, but the 119 is happening by December 30th. So staff is working fast and furiously. The pandemic coordinator position is being advertised, and we expect to have someone in place by January. So we're hoping to interview before the break and then have them start in January, transition to the district in January. COVID testing, we are finalizing the paperwork, and we will be able to start testing staff as soon as January. So when we're about midweek, when we return from break, we will start testing our staff that's coming onto campus. We are continuing to meet with our union partners to develop the MOU, and we are already staging classrooms. We have a few middle school classrooms as well as an elementary classroom that's staged to see how many desks we can actually get in there, and so that we can remain safe. And so it's a very lengthy process. We're also investigating, or we're going to be purchasing desks to be made, because what we have currently are tables, which we've really wanted and appreciated having for the collaboration purposes, but it will not work for reopening because of the social distancing. So we have to purchase desks to be able to accommodate the students, and keep in mind that protocol of 6 feet. We're having ongoing meetings, parent meetings. We had one last evening, and that is our parent advisory council, which is made up of our PTA presidents, and that's going well. And we're also having meetings for our Spanish speaking parents as well. We have the weekly newsletter going out to our community to make sure that everyone's getting similar information and we know where the district is. And we have the video messages that is also being provided, as well as we're working on developing hybrid schedules. So the management team has met, and they're working on those schedules, as well as meeting with small groups of teachers to talk about the schedules. And then we're pushing it out as we were able to make some more decisions. What are we considering when we develop the schedules? We need to first and foremost consider the safety of the students and the staff. This is definitely a priority. We really want to consider what is best for students, what makes sense for the kids, and what's best for learning. Families with students attending different schools have reminded us, and we need to be cognizant of that fact and take that into consideration as we plan. We want to make sure that we're supporting teachers so that they can do the best job possible. And what we really want to do is to be what will be least disruptive for our families. So try to be as consistent as possible and in terms of the schedule. And the also thing that I don't want to forget to mention is also the impact of support staff. Are we able to adequately clean? Do we have enough staff so that everyone is considered? Now I'm going to introduce our principal, Dawn Mawhinney from Technology High School, to talk a little bit about her work and what she's considering as she thoughtfully thinks about having students return to campus.
All right, thank you, Myra. I'm Dawn Mawhinney, principal of Technology High School, and it is a particular task for secondary with the state recommendations to put together a hybrid model. The state recommends no more than 2 cohorts per teacher or teacher group with 14 students. And that's not exactly how secondary is done. So we had to give this quite a bit of thought. And what we are thinking about currently is we want to target the in-person engagement. And the first wave of students we believe should be freshmen who have not had the opportunity to truly transition into the high school environment, English learners, and special ed students. Then a second wave, whether we do this month by month or more, would be the students needing more academic support as evidenced by their grades. Now, once we figure out which students will actually be returning from the freshman group, English learner group, and special ed group, there may be more room for that second wave group of students as well. So what we are planning on doing is meeting on Mondays in person with the students' homeroom teachers. So that's the period where they do the social and emotional learning check-ins. If they would return, they would do guided asynchronous work, and they would be in an academic environment. They'd be with other students. They'd be able to use the district Wi-Fi and have less interruptions throughout their day. They would have teacher and peer support for projects, lessons, homework, that interaction that the kids are craving that's difficult to replicate digitally. And teachers will have 1 to 2 cohorts of 14 students, and parents can still opt out of that to keep their students at home with distance learning if they're part of one of these targeted groups. Students not attending in person will continue the current Monday distance learning schedule. All safety protocols will be followed: masks, 6-foot distancing, temperature checks outside if possible, staggered bathroom breaks, etc. We've already started to get stakeholder feedback because that's really important. This has been shared with the Technology High School staff. It has already been shared to PTSA, which Addison is part of, the student representative to PTSA, And he's actually given me some of the best feedback I've received from anyone so far. So Addison, you're the bomb. Thank you. Next week, we are going to present to Site Council. It was at the Parent Advisory Committee last night. And once we get these smaller committees, I'm going to send it out in my newsletter to all the students and all the parents to solicit feedback from everyone. It will also be presented to the Associated Student Body to get more student feedback as well. So to look at our schedule, if we can go to the next slide. On Mondays is when the staff meets for their PLC, our staff meetings. That's our time together from 8 o'clock to 9:05 every week. So our session 1 would meet 9:10 to 10:40, which would be a 90-minute block. Then the students would have a 10-minute break, and then they would go into session 2, and whether that's with the same teacher or a different teacher has yet to be decided, for another 90-minute break. They would leave campus at 12:30, and they would be able to continue their independent asynchronous work at home from 1:20 to 3 o'clock. The 12:30 to 1:20 is, of course, lunch, time for travel, time to get something to eat, time to settle back into their routine. So are there questions?
Hey, Dawn, can I ask you a question? This is Krista.
Of course.
Hi, this is going to be a silly question, so bear with me. I'm trying to figure out, because I'm getting questions from parents, et cetera, and maybe you're not the right person to ask, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but why are kids not going to school from 8 to 3? Why aren't they having like a normal day of learning? I get the breaks and whatnot, but do you know what the thinking is behind that?
Are you talking about currently with distance learning, or are you talking about this model?
I think in general, as a whole, we're seeing like some shortened teaching where the teachers might only be teaching for a couple hours and then the kids are basically on their own. But this particular Monday block that you have up, I see that from 1:20 to 3, this online independent classwork, does that mean they're working without a teacher? They're just on their own?
Yes. So what the state and what a lot of educators found was that 7 hours on Zoom is actually very different than 7 hours in front of the computer. So the state allowed for direct instruction for a shorter period of time than the duration of a full day. And so at Tech High, and it's different at some other sites, the students do go in front of a live teacher from 8 till 12:30, Tuesday through Friday, and then they have most asynchronous time on Monday. And then after lunch, that is the time the students get to do their homework. They get to go to office hours if they need a targeted instruction with a teacher. The teachers are available for either open office hours or scheduled office hours. And they're also willing to meet with parents during that time if there needs to be more support or some exploration of how the student is doing. But to actually sit in front of Zoom for those hours, we all found last spring that that was a great deal to ask of the kids. And I know that I, as an adult, sometimes when I'm on for 4, 5, 6 hours on Zoom in a day, I have to lay down everything I do.
May I chime in also? One of the things that we, for this year, is we do not have the instructional minutes that we had in previous years because of distance learning. And the other thing that we need to think about is the enhanced cleaning takes a significant amount of time also. So it's a variety of things. So we don't want too much screen time. We've got to get the classrooms disinfected so they're clean and we're not, having any challenges with spreading the virus. And then we also have reduced instructional minutes for this year only because we were not opening. So we have those are a couple of things that are in play.
Okay, thank you. Is there a way that we can get that kind of information, what was just said, condensed out to parents? Because I'm hearing from parents that are like, my kid's just sitting up in his room on a screen doing nothing when he's supposed to be independent study. And it's like, I know that the parents are struggling with that, which is why I asked the question. But I'm just wondering if there's a way we can communicate that in general at each school site to the families.
I'll write it down. Thank you so much. That's a great idea.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Go ahead. This is left. So question. So Monday through Friday, I'm not going to be going to the same classes every day, correct? And so on different days, it's kind of like the college schedule. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I did these classes, and Tuesday, Thursday, I did these classes. Is that similar to what's going to be happening at Tech High?
That is currently what's happening at Tech High. So the students go to 1357 on Tuesday and Thursday, and 0246 on Wednesday and Friday. And Monday is homeroom for that social and emotional learning piece, for them to be able to fill out some forms or touch base and check in and find out what the students need. Yes.
Okay. So I see, help me understand that. So I see session 1, session 2, and then independent, if this is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So are there 3 classes or 3 subject matters studied on a Monday?
Well, since we have 7 classes and teachers see roughly at secondary anywhere in the district from 75 to 150 kids, and at Tech High they see 150 kids, there's no way to have teachers see 2 cohorts of 28. So on Monday, when we have that homeroom, we thought would be a good time for the students to come to campus and work on their asynchronous work with guided help and in an academic environment, and to be able to work with other students. So this schedule is only Mondays. And then also that way for our families that live farther away, it's easier if they have siblings at different schools not to have to be chasing their kids around.
Okay.
Those were some of the thoughts that we had.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dawn. We'll continue with LJ. Principal Quinn.
Good evening, everyone. So this is going to look very familiar. So Lawrence Jones' schedule is actually very similar to Tech High's. And so we are going to be adopting a similar, again, this is a phase 1. So this is step 1. This isn't like what it will be for eternity, but this is when conditions permit for the students to safely return to campus in limited numbers. Our first target group are going to be our English learners, our students with disabilities, being students with IEPs and 504s. Again, if conditions permit us to bring additional students back to campus, we will prioritize bringing our 6th graders back, our at-risk students, and our other specialized programs. The difference with our schedule is that this in-person live instruction kind of directed study or academic advisory offering will be provided on Wednesdays, which currently is our short instructional day where the students have brief check-ins with teachers. And then again, with this model, this is going to allow our English learners and our students with IEPs and 504s to attend classes in groups of no more than 14 to get direct support. The remainder of the students will be assigned to an advisory teacher. They will log in, participate in some social emotional learning activities, most likely our homeroom type activities when we have to push information out to the kids about what's happening with ASB and our activities on our virtual campus. And no matter what, whether the kids are physically in person or at home with their asynchronous work, they're going to have access to teacher guidance and support. It'll just look a little differently for the ones who are physically on campus. Again, it can support them with any work that they have, whether it's their virtual work or if they're now able to do some form of a physical project, they can get assistance. In terms of what to expect, we too are walking through our safety protocols, looking at how will students enter the campus, how will they exit campus. We're going to have hopefully multiple temperature check stations to facilitate a quick entry into the school. Our nutrition breaks are actually going to be provided prior to classes starting so that students can grab a quick bite before they report to class. And then breaks really are going to be for transition, stretching, restroom, because we don't want the kids mingling and to increase a chance of transmission. And then so the bathroom breaks, they will be staggered. We're actually working on developing a long-term plan for an outdoor classroom. We have a beautiful, covered eating area that we can access if classes would like to work outside. And then when students leave school, they will grab their sack lunch and take it with them, and they will eat their lunch at home. So again, this is just a phase one when it's safe enough to return in limited groupings. And then in terms of what that will translate to for the Wednesday hybrid, we try to keep it as similar to what the students are currently used to. So we're keeping the blocks at 80 minutes in length. School will start at 8:10. The transition time in this regard, again, is shorter to minimize student interaction and possibility of transmission, but we also want to make sure that we're providing adequate time to sanitize classrooms before students arrive to their next location. The second session will be from 9:40 to 11 o'clock, and that 11 o'clock will be when students are released to transition back home. And then after their lunch break is when they will resume any remaining asynchronous work that they were not able to complete during their morning guided sessions with their advisory teachers. Do you guys have any questions for me?
So I have a question. We're talking about small cohorts, different sections of students. When, this is kind of a crystal ball thing, we go back into the red and things get better, not all students are coming back, right?
Correct.
So
we'll have,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say, we'll have more work to do. Like really, this is gonna be a phased re-entry plan.
Right.
And if we ever hit the point where we're able to return, in two separate student groupings, like have an alternating cohort, we will have to do a major overhaul of our current schedule just because, we have 6 periods. So we're going to have to work with students and staff and the community members to figure out what is going to be the easiest transition back to a full-time hybrid that also syncs up with, needs with families who have students in the elementary schools. So it's not super straightforward at this juncture, but we will be working, this is the direction we're moving in. So there will be more planning in place so that if and when we hit the point where we're able to return, we will be able to do so safely.
So there's
So
no way,
Melissa, oh, sorry.
so there's no way, Myra or Melissa or Dawn, to say if everything is better, how long it's going to take us to get back to normal or somewhat normal.
Well,
Right.
Right.
And then with secondary, you also have to keep in mind that it's a different model than elementary. The students, they are assigned to various teachers, and so they have to rotate by nature to be with the person that has the credential specialty of the course that they're taking. So it's another layer of complexity that has to be carefully planned for to make sure that we're ensuring the safety of our students and our staff.
Okay. And I, going to the CSBA conference, one of the breakout things was talking about the first thing you want is safety for staff and students and families. But me being impatient, but I have to be patient, is like if the vaccine comes out and this virus gets under control by March or April, I'm totally optimistic. I'm just, there's different scenarios. So, it says, what's it take to get back to normal? So, and I realize this is baby steps, or, we have to do this type of thing. We've never been through this before. So I'm just looking for an end solution, which I'm probably way ahead of myself. So sorry.
No, you're fine. We're all eager to get back to business as usual. We all miss seeing our kids, and we would love to do so as soon as safely possible. And again, this is just the first step in many, and we guarantee you that as we build out the next phases in this transition back, that we will keep the board and the community apprised of what our next steps are.
Okay. Community just as much as the board. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa, it's Krista. Are we talking about doing this kind of a cohort thing 2 days a week for the cohorts as opposed to 5 days a week? Are we still in that kind of a thought process?
It's strictly a Wednesday in-person live cohort. Everything else is status quo. So they're Monday and Thursday periods 1 through 3, 80-minute blocks, like their schedule stays as it is. And then their Tuesday periods 4, 5, and 6. And then that also is on Friday. So the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, those days, that instruction is undisrupted. The only thing that changes is their Wednesday schedule. And again, this is first phase targeting English learners, students with disabilities, so IEPs, 504s. It's only Wednesday that they would have live instruction. Everything else remains unchanged.
But they would not be on campus 5 days a week.
Correct. They would only be on campus physically on Wednesday if they're in that first phase.
Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I know we had talked about a couple of months ago. Is it just 2 days a week? Monday, Tuesday for this cohort. Wednesday we clean, then Thursday, Friday. So I'm just checking to see where we're at with the number of days physically on campus.
Given the current recommendations of how we need to bring them back, and just taking in mind the continuity of learning, it is far more beneficial to not disrupt the other days of direct virtual instruction per se, and to really just start with this Wednesday in person, with the 2 cohorts. But as things evolve, we're going to evolve with them.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And I want to remind everyone that this is like careful drafting and planning, and it could change. It depends on the guidance that we receive, and that's that seems to be happening a lot. Things change.
Yeah.
Thank you, Principal Quinn. Anyway, we'd like to move to the elementary schedule. Little bit easier because we have smaller classes, right? We don't have 150 students to one teacher. We have classes of 28 or 30, although there be some challenges. I want to turn it over to Principal Raffoni, who will be talking to us about the AB schedule for elementary.
So good evening. So I think this might have been the schedule that you were speaking about, Krista. So my name is Teresa Raffoni. I'm the principal at Richard Crane. And this is a draft of an AB schedule for elementary. So on Mondays and Tuesdays, a cohort of students would come for in-person learning, and the other cohort, cohort B, would be at home, distance learning, and having a live class meeting at one point during the day. On Wednesdays, cohort A and B would both be virtual learning, but they would have a morning meeting, and it would give our staff time to disinfect and do the enhanced cleaning that needs to happen, as well as our staff meetings and our PLC time. And then that would flip-flop for Thursday and Friday. So on Thursday and Friday, cohort B would have in-person learning, while cohort A would have asynchronous learning at home. So some of the pros and cons of this schedule is that, well, number one, a pro is that we get students on campus. So, but it gives them just 2 days of being on campus. It gives for a very clear, distinct day of cleaning for our maintenance so that they can deep clean. It's one of the cons that I see in the schedule is that it doesn't give enough consistency for our younger learners to be on campus more than 2 days. And we know that in learning, repetition is helpful. And it also is a little more for the teachers to juggle because they are teaching in the morning And then that in the afternoon is when they would have an opportunity to be online with the students. I do want to say, people also ask, well, so that means they get to come at 8:20. My student gets to stay till all the way to 3 o'clock. We need to be able to give the teachers time to meet with the cohort, the opposite cohort in the afternoon at some point for a live class meeting. So I want to preface that it's not looking at like an 8:20 to 3 o'clock day for the cohort that is on campus. We have talked about allowing for our youngest learners, our kindergartners, our TK students, to have an opportunity to do like a meet and greet and start with them coming back on campus, potentially phasing in 1 week at a time, so we can teach them kind of our expectations. This will be the first time that they're really in a classroom on our campuses, and then bring back our first and second graders and keep phasing in. But the intent was that we could have all of our students on campus following all the safety protocols.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, and what we're seeing is we're seeing two schedules that are for the districts that are opening up. We're seeing either this A/B schedule or the next one. So that's what we've been doing, is studying to see what makes sense. I'd like to introduce Principal Lundy, who will talk about the AM/PM schedule.
Good evening. It's nice to be here tonight. And so, building on what Principal Ruffoni shared, having those entry points for the different and phasing in the different grade levels, offering opportunities for the students to be able to be met with and greeted with so that they can learn their routines, to really build this in, because this model is also showing a model where the students would get 150 minutes of in-person instruction, which then is different than that drop off at 8:20, pick up at 3 o'clock. And so when you look at this model, this is the AB/AM/PM model. The elementary team has been actively seeking out resources outside of our district, talking with other ones to get ideas and see what's working and what have been the challenges. So this AM/PM/AB model targets all the students being on campus 4 days a week. Students being in person with their teacher and their cohort 4 days a week for that little block of time, 150 minutes. Using some of these distance learning tools that we've been getting stronger at to support and reinforce that in-person learning during their asynchronous or at-home time. Another target of this one is eliminating food not being served on site, no lunch. So a brown bag lunch would be offered and accessible to those as they left school each day. Recess is also not a part of this model, so that we're really targeting and knowing where our students are for those cleanups and providing the instructional moments as the time. This model for the AM/PM also, it makes it so that if any day is called off, whether it be a Monday holiday or any kind of event like our community has now and then, that all students would miss that same day and therefore not lose out on a day of instruction. So you'll notice that you have cohort A coming in the morning on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And then you have this block in the middle where there's an aggressive cleanup happening on the site in the classrooms. And during that time, teachers are actually outside of their classroom, having their lunch and being able to prep and then go back into their room to prepare for the afternoon cohort that would be there. And that would be every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. On Wednesdays, it would be asynchronous online learning where there would be cohort A and B together with their teacher virtually in the morning. Then the staff would participate in their staff meetings, their professional learning, and their PLC time, with the afternoon being lunch and preparations. So that's a key part, just the cleaning, that's a question. Those are questions that the principals keep asking and wanting to find out more details about of what does that look like. And that's what we're striving for so that it's safe. But this one really targets kids being on the site 4 days a week with their teachers in those cohorts of up to 14 kids.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So on your schedule, I see, you got the cleaning classroom, but you're gonna have the classrooms have to be cleaned twice a day, right?
Yeah.
So then you have to have, has anyone figured how many staff members it takes to clean all the classrooms within that period of time at that lunch period?
I know we've had discussions around it and we've brought it up with the maintenance team and shared a neighboring district that is doing this. I don't have those numbers exactly. I don't know, Myra, if you know that precisely, but it is something, Joe, that we are actively discussing. That is one of the pieces that have come up for sure.
Yeah, it seems like this one has like a lot more cleaning than the other one.
Yes.
Yeah, those little.
It's like very challenging to like, if you're giving someone, a certain amount of time to clean something, they're going to be like rushing through it, because they only have a little bit of time to do a bunch of classrooms, and I'd like to see what that looks like, their resources, like what the actual schedule will be to clean all these rooms in that period of time.
Yeah, we Trustee Chimino, we've definitely discussed this, and we know the concern. And beginning, I didn't even want to. I was really concerned about this schedule. The one thing that we have, when we've talked to other districts, they do hire extra staff. We do have CARES funds money to hire extra custodial staff to do the cleaning at this point in time. So we're working through that, and that's why I keep saying the word draft. Is because we really need to figure out that it works for everyone and that we can pull it off. But we know that districts are being successful with the AM PM schedule.
Yeah.
We actually talked to a principal that said it's working, and we're going to have to revisit again and visit those schools now that they're fully open and they've been open for a few weeks. What can we learn from them? But definitely we are working on that, and it's a conversation that happens with everybody involved, and because we need to make sure that support staff is supported, and they can get the work done, and that we're keeping everybody safe.
So if I'm reading this, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like 8:20 to 10:20 will be cohort A, and then 10:20 to 12:20 will be cleaning, and then 12:20 to 2:20 cohort B? Or is it a little bit, like she said 150, it'd be 2.5 hours. Am I even close?
So we do have some ideas that we played with numbers with times. Okay. We did not put these on here because there's a lot of factors we've talked about, like how do all the kids arrive at the same time? TKK, the first grade, second grade. So we intentionally did not put the times here because that's what we're working through. But you do have the right idea that there's a block in the morning, there's a block in the middle that's cleaning, and then there's a block at the end for the afternoon that will be students. And we just know that staff meeting part, that's a pretty consistent time because that's a Wednesday. It's what we've put into our schedule for right now as well. So building on that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Principal Lundy. Anyway, and so as we look at these, we are thoughtful. We keep saying, okay, it's draft. How do we make it work? What's best for everyone, and definitely thinking about our students. The next, unfortunately, Principal McKenna is ill this evening, so she will not be presenting her schedule. I'm going to try to do that, but I know that Dr. Ganser is going to help me. Oops, sorry, I need to take a break. We're going to turn it over to Principal Broem from Thomas Page Academy to talk about her schedule. Then we'll talk about Tech Middle School.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. I'm Lindsay Broden. I'm the principal at Thomas Page Academy. So we are a kindergarten through 8th grade site, and I'm here just to share that overall, what we will be adopting at our school site is what the elementary team and schools agree upon as the overall schedule for all of our grade levels from kindergarten through 8th grade. We will be adopting all the safety protocols, that we decide upon as a district, considering those, start times possibly being staggered and all of the different safety protocols that we must consider. And I think that our biggest challenge for us, we are not a comprehensive middle school program. However, we do have a 6th through 8th grade program in which our students see 3 teachers throughout their day usually. That's 2 core content area teachers and then a PE teacher. And so I just wanted to share that would look a little bit different for our 6th through 8th grade students. We're happy that because our program is small, we would be able to bring back all of our students, 6th through 8th grade included, at the same frequency on campus as our kindergarten through 5th grade students. And the only difference for our 6th through 8th grade students would be that they're seeing their homeroom teacher only. Every teacher on our site has a homeroom class. Every student on our site has a homeroom teacher. And our class sizes work perfectly that if every student wanted to come back for hybrid learning, we could split the homeroom classes in half, and half would go into cohort A that you see on the screen, half would go into cohort B. And students would be in their homeroom teacher's class for the duration of their time on campus. And so they would be seeing one teacher in person, not their other core content area teacher. However, we're happy that we would be able to provide that learning environment for them for their academic classes. And so what I have on the slide here is just the comparison between the schedules that have been shared already, the AM, PM schedule, and then the AB day schedule, and what that might look like. Our cohort A would be on campus in the morning, and then that intense cleaning would happen in the middle of the day for that AM, PM schedule, and then our cohort B would attend school on campus in the afternoon, and then the same pattern would continue with the AB days, with Monday and Tuesday being on campus, and then Thursday and Friday for cohort B. One thing that we have to consider, if you wouldn't mind moving to the next slide, that would be awesome, please. Thanks. One thing that we have to consider here is that because we span so many grade levels, we have a lot of families that have 3, 4 children on our campus. And our priority would be to ensure that families, siblings are in the same cohort and end up in the same cohort. We want that part to be convenient and doable for our families. And some benefits of our schedule is that it does bring every student back on campus for in-person learning multiple days a week, whether we do AM, PM or AB type schedule. And that academic environment is conducive to productivity and learning and focus, and those small learning groups help with that one-on-one. We get closer to that one-on-one possibility for attention toward each student. And then we are going to work with our families to make the schedule and the cohorts work out between siblings and family members and carpools, things like that. We're going to continue working on this schedule. There are more things to consider. We're all working together right now. For instance, a survey went out this week for our families so that we can have a feeling of to what extent are our families interested in coming back to hybrid learning. We're having parent meetings where we're discussing this together, like PTA, school site council, our site leadership team made of faculty and myself made the schedule together, as well as for the 6th through 8th schedule specifically. The teachers and I just, work together on that and get everything done together as a group. And then we'll be having a meeting on December 16th for all our families next week, and where I'll be introducing, where we are right now with planning for reopening to hybrid when we can. And when we can, we're really looking forward to be able to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Now we're going to move to Tech Middle School, and I've asked Dr. Ganser to assist me. Should you have some questions? This is Principal McKenna's schedule. she is ill and she's unable to attend tonight. So I'll be presenting, but Dr. Gansler will be on the sidelines to help me out because the schedules are similar. It is a 3x3, similar to Rancho Cotati High School. So can we have the next slide? So as you can see here, here's a sample of how we would transition from distance learning to in-person. You can see the map, history, and electives, and the kids would be split into cohorts of 2. And you can see this the sample schedule, which would be Wednesday would be the hybrid schedule, and you can see the different periods in the synchronous learning and where we would build in lunch. And as you can see, lunch would be at home, and it would be, they would continue with their asynchronous versus teaching versus synchronous. Next slide, please. So the benefits and challenges of this schedule is the students are be able to maintain that connection with their class and with the students they've been attending at distance learning. So try to keep those classroom groups together. The students maintain their class schedule. So it's not a huge transition or shift that, it's a similar schedule. Students are on a rotation and will only be on campus every other day, 2 to 3 days a week. So it's kind of a rotating schedule. Again, we have to remember that the challenges of the secondary school is that teachers see more students, and at this time they cannot see 150 students. So how do we create an opportunity for kids to return to class and have some in-person instruction, but we will not be able to offer that for all children. It'll have to be a phase-in model, as you've been hearing throughout this evening. Next slide, please. So how, I was asking principals, how are you getting input? And that's really important to us. And that's why we can't say this is the schedule we're going with, because we're still going out there, getting input, and then revising and modifying the schedule based on what we hear from different stakeholder groups. So site leadership team will be part of that process. And they worked on it last spring. So the site leadership team at Tech Middle School will be part of that. ELAC will also be learning about the schedule on January 12th. The PTSA will also be meeting in January and be hearing about the schedule. And then there's Tuesday Tiger Talk will be the topic for January and January 5th and 26th meetings. I'm not quite sure what Tiger Talk is. I'm assuming that it may involve some students, but I do apologize for that. But that's some of the work that's happening at Tech Middle School. I don't know if you have any questions on that. Okay, thank you. So let's go on to Rancho Cotati High School. Dr. Gansler, the floor is yours.
Good evening, thank you. All right, so the staff looked at 3 different models. From those 3, the one I'm about to present was the one that had the over 70% of our staff felt like this was the way to go, and I'm going to explain why. So next slide, please. So when we designed the 3x3, we had hybrid in mind. And one of the advantages of the 3x3 is that it cuts the base level of classes from 6 or 7 to 3. And so that allows us to rotate through those classes much more quickly. Next slide, please. So the model that we've settled upon, we're calling tutorial. And so the one of the key elements of our success, I believe, is that we have daily contact with students. And so students see their teachers at this point virtually every single day. And so we want to retain that. And hybrid, as you've seen with the other models, most hybrid plans are not in person every single day. So we were thinking about how we could do that. So essentially, we're going to keep the same schedule. So in the morning, we will have our online classes. And then in the afternoon, we will have an in-person tutorial, which is at the bottom there. So it's in a slightly different color from 1 to 2:30. So the basic schedule here is the first 3 classes are between 8:30 and 10:30 as normal. That's one of the other things is we want to absolutely preserve the daily contact and also create stability within our existing schedule. We have the support class from 10:45 to 11:45. So the change is that bottom line where normally that would be an online tutorial. What we're doing is proposing an in-person tutorial, and that has several advantages. So next slide, please. So as we looked at this, many of the factors that helped us arrive at this decision was that we needed to, of course, minimize the level of exposure. We wanted our model to be as effective as possible. And again, that daily contact to us is one of the reasons why our model has been effective. We want to make sure that both students and parents and teachers are able to adapt to the schedule and for it to work for them so that it's viable. And then of course, safety is foremost on our mind. So what do transitions look like in a hybrid model? And so building off of the very good questions that Trustee Brown and Chimino raised about what happens if a student decides not to come back, if parents and students decide that the environment is not safe enough for them, or their particular situation does not lend itself to going back. And how do you deal with holding multiple classes and then cleaning in between? So next slide, please. What we came up with this tutorial model is that it is essentially optional in the sense that a student could very much decide that, and we believe that based on a lot of polling, that 20 to 30% of our students may not opt to come back. This model does not disrupt that. So they can continue with all of their classes and the same schedule and then opt either to come into an in-person tutorial or not. And then that tutorial is only one block. So there's not this rush to clean in between different cohorts sitting down. So the exposure then is up to 14 students at a time within a classroom, and they can reserve we'll have software, but basically they will reserve 30-minute increments, or they could reserve a 90-minute increment if they wanted to stay with the teacher for 90 minutes. We feel like it builds on an already good model. We're adding an element. We're not taking anything away. So we have the daily interaction with 8:30 to 10:30 classes, and then we're adding another element of in-person interaction if someone chooses to do so. We provide consistency. We do not increase teacher preps, and we're not asking teachers also to do what I think is a very difficult thing, which is to teach both online and in person, and it avoids that trap. And then of course we are, high school is, we have a, managing a student body of around 1,500, presents its own challenges. With this model, we are dealing with smaller numbers for a smaller amount of time. And so the transitions between classes and to and from school are more containable. So that's, in a nutshell, that's our plan, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Our mission, our vision statement here, as we sought to consider any of these models, was we wanted to choose the most effective model. We want students to benefit from face-to-face learning, and for teachers to have a sustainable schedule and to keep people safe. And that's what guided our work.
Do we have any questions for Dr. Gansler?
I don't. Other board members, anyone have any questions?
Nope.
I don't, but I really like that thought process.
I do too. And it sounds like, I mean, listening to what's happening at some of the other high schools, they're struggling because they have so many classes, and this is helping alleviate some of those issues and not putting as much pressure on the kids as well.
Yeah, we believe that's the case, that that having 3 classes has really been
beneficial,
a helpful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyway, so that concludes our presentation, and we really wanted to give you insight into the planning that's going on and the meetings that are taking place to really study specifically how are we going to implement those protocols successfully, keep people safe, and bring our students back. So that concludes our presentation on hybrid learning, on reopening our schools.
Do we want to take a break now, Myra? Is that what we?
Yes, if we could take a 5-minute break, that would be.
Okay, so we will, I guess, adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes and we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, so everyone check back in 5 minutes, please. Are we at 5 minutes or
Yeah, I think we are.
is everyone back?
I'm here.
Okay.
Tim and Joe?
Here.
Okay. Tim, you back? Tim, come back. Tim, come back.
Am I there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't find the mute button.
All right. You're back. Thank you. So we will reconvene after a 5-minute break and we will go on to 7B.
Yes.
Okay.
Superintendent update.
Thank you.
Anyway, I want to first reintroduce or remind you or that back in August when I presented my entry plan, I invited Dr. Paul Porter, who's with us here tonight, to be part of the superintendent evaluation process. So he's here tonight joining us again while I present my findings of my listening tour of Cotati Rohnert Park.
Great. Thank you.
And he will be probably asking questions of the board. Dr. Porter?
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you, Myra. When Superintendent Perez and I talked, we talked about maybe now and then I could ask, you know, given these findings, is there anything you as a board would like her to consider putting into her goals? So that's now and then throughout the evening, since that's what I'm going to be continuing to help her with, I might ask that kind of question. Is that right, Dr. Perez?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyway, so I want to remind everyone that this was a listening tour. So, you know, when we gather data, people have different impressions and different experiences with the district, and this is a result of approximately 75 interviews that included staff, parents, students, and community members. So this is a small sampling, and I definitely have more to learn, but this is some of the preliminary things that I learned as I met with different people. And I think the process, I think I started in May. Anyway, next slide. So one of the themes that was very clear was communication and community engagement. Community has definitely expressed, you know, wanting to be involved and collaborate with the district through committee work or what have you. They really appreciate having those meetings and providing input and having that collaboration and two-way communication going on within our district. Parents want to support the district and the work that we're doing. And there's a mutual respect and appreciation for teachers and families. One of the things that is an ongoing theme is that people will say there are great people here. This is a wonderful place. And then there's that deep appreciation for the work that's done here. Some of the things that maybe we wish to improve a little bit and strengthen is that communication has been inconsistent. So we want to create systems for that consistent communication. There's been, for some, there's been limited opportunity for stakeholder input. They felt that they haven't had that as much. And like I said, these are just a result of 75 interviews. Well, one thing that we've, that's risen to the top is the Latinx community and parents don't have adequate opportunities to actively engage. So they're not really present, and we're trying to outreach to include them in the conversation. And that could be for a variety of reasons. We're holding just all Spanish meetings to make sure that they're comfortable and aren't you know, concerned about asking questions. They feel comfortable doing that. Anyway, and then curriculum committees have met sporadically. So it doesn't seem like there's a system for having that conversation about curriculum, and there could be a variety of reasons for that. So that's a little bit about community engagement. I wanted to share a few quotes that I thought were really wonderful and kind of endearing in telling about the community. We have great people and their hearts are in the right place. So I think that's such a testament to what I've experienced in Cotati Rohnert Park. It's just some wonderful people that want to do the right thing. We have amazing administrators, teachers, and students. So that's something that there's a deep appreciation, and also, quite frankly, for the families. You can see the care and the connection when people come in community together. From staff, we heard we are pleased by our success with PBIS and restorative practices. So addressing discipline in a different manner than zero tolerance or what have you, working different way with students, and people are seeing a real change and shift in their practice. And then one of the other quotes was, there's a need to refocus and redefine who we are. So really look at what is our vision, what is our mission, where are we going? So really identifying a North Star to get us going in the right direction. And someone even said to me, we've been, and it's not a criticism, as more as like, we're ready to go, and we've been kind of in a holding pattern. So that's some of the learning. And I thought that was a really, really interesting information to learn about our community. Next.
Dr. Perez?
Yes.
Do you want to pause after you've got, I think, 5 major areas here? Do you want to pause after each, or do you want to wait till the end?
We can pause.
I guess that's each. The board's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Or what does the board want to do? So I would say maybe go back a slide.
Okay,
and
let's
ask
go back
the
a
board,
slide.
does this trigger any ideas or things you'd like to see in the goals that Dr. Perez is working on? Any actions? Go back one more. I would say go back to that very first one. That'd be my recommendation, but of course it's up to the board.
Questions or input from the board?
Well, I think early on when Mike Wattenpaugh came on, actually even a little bit before that, the board we'd done some brainstorming sessions about goals, and we really condensed it down to a lot of things that we all agreed on were important. And then COVID hit. And so I think our goals were put by the wayside. A lot of it had to do with distance learning and things changing. So I'm looking forward to when the new board members are seated after the new year, to start to try to hopefully have a meeting where we can refocus the board on what we wanted to work on. We had a whole laundry list of things, and I think we pared it down to something that was really doable for us. And so I'm looking forward to working with Dr. Perez. I think that we can get some of that stuff rolling again.
But how do we refresh our memory as to what those 4 or 5 or 3 main goals were?
I think we have to go back and pull the board meetings, because we had a lot of white paper. And then the gal that Mike had come in, and I'm sorry, but her name escapes me. She had done a lot. What was her name?
Jill.
Yes, Jill had she had put together like a slideshow of our input.
Mm-hmm.
So someone has that. And it wasn't terrible. It wasn't like a long laundry list of things that needed to be done. There were just some places where we wanted to refocus the board for communication. I think there's a lot of things we need to look at as a new board. A governance handbook, Myra, that came from the board president meeting that we both attended at CSBA last week. So I think there's a lot of things we could probably tweak a little bit with the new board members when they come on. So I think that a lot of these things on here, as I'm looking through your list, are pretty much in line with what we talked about as a board as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Marketing was one of them as well. Another, with the change of COVID and the Zoom meetings, we've actually, in my opinion, we've had a much larger turnout with the Zoom meeting. So I definitely think we need to look at keeping that going for some of these committee meetings, because people are more apt to be involved if they don't actually have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
What a great suggestion. Okay. That's good input, Dr. Perez. You and I can maybe go back and look at those previous minutes and do some work on them together, huh? Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, great. Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other, are we ready to move on? Okay. Thank you. Let's go to celebrating accomplishment. One of the things that in talking to our school leaders, they really wanted to be able to be acknowledged or to be able to share with the board their successes and their initiatives. They are working diligently to enhance and strengthen their instructional programs, looking at data to improve instruction. And we, you know, we want to carve time out to really be able to share that information with the board so that you're aware of the work that's going on. There needs to be, you know, there's just that need to highlight the schools, students, staff, and their accomplishments, and really positively promote the schools to attract more students, because this is a wonderful district, and we want to be able to share the wonderful things going on in our community. And also marketing the schools. Marketing the schools needs to be adapted. This is a real recent one, and we're working on it currently due to our current set of circumstances. So we're not having showcases. What are we going to do differently so we can show the community what our schools have to offer and the unique programs that we have, so that we can encourage the enrollment in our district. And so any ideas or any comments on celebrating accomplishments?
I definitely think we need to do it. I think there's a lot of tools that are on the back end of Facebook that principals, there's a back end on Facebook where principals can share things directly through our district Facebook page without having to have somebody else do it. But it's just about everybody learning how to learn the ins and outs of it. So maybe a class with principals
Awesome.
and teaching them how to do it.
Good idea.
More videos, lots of videos, but
Okay.
Yeah.
We
the videos
are,
I've seen have been great this year.
we're really working on that. And yeah, we're going to continue to do that.
Mhm.
Definitely. Thank you for that advice. And that's a really good idea. Any other comments or?
Well, I think at one point we did talk about having students maybe do performances or things like that. I know we talked about maybe having them the meetings at the tag building, and I think that would get more parental involvement, and we'd really be able to showcase that. And then people who, you know, like Jennifer was saying, people who couldn't make the meetings could be a little bit more involved in those things too. I mean, we do the live streaming, I mean, with YouTube, but I think that would be really cool to be able to do that and get people to show up more, and get the kids get to show off to more than just their school, what they've been doing.
Thank you. That's awesome. It's always good to be reminded of who we work for the children and seeing them in the room. Thank you. And
So I know one of the things possibly is if using the technology at the tag building to, if we can safely record student achievements or student demonstrating our successes, and is our IT basing right now out of there to run all this, or how is all the Zoom stuff coming together?
Well,
I know we're all remote.
Yeah,
I understand that. But I mean, if we go back to a hybrid, you see, some other school boards are actually meeting all spaced apart, like we were initially, type of thing. If it can get to a safe environment. But then too, with the tag building, you've got the recording portions, back in the back side of that. If students, if we're going to showcase something, could be there in a safe environment. I mean, just like at the CSBA, they had students performing music, you know, with masks and, you know, and being apart type of thing. So as soon as we can and it's safe, I think we need to leverage our technologies there to help get stuff out. And I agree, I am not a big Facebook user or poster or whatever. I don't do very little, if any, of that. But if there's a lot of people that are, you know, relying on that and then getting information on that, we need to set a platform that how each school, you know, can contribute to that on a monthly basis.
Definitely. And we, for example, we got started early with Tech High School. And so that was one of our first videos that we pushed out. And we're continuing to make videos because we know we have to do it different and virtually, but definitely those are things to look into, and I can definitely work with IT team to see what we can do. I do think we can, we probably could tape some student performances and bring them into the board while we're still closed. I think that would be a wonderful thing to do.
One thing that we have to, you know, be aware of is, you know, at the CSBA conference, when the CEO of the code company was talking about, you know, access for everybody. So we're assuming that if we do something on Facebook or do something on, you know, on the computer or a board meeting or broadcasting that, we have to figure out, you know, how much of our population has access and how much, you know, and if there's part of our population that doesn't have access, how do we get the similar message to them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people moving away from the Facebook model, and a lot of people are going to Instagram, and a lot of people are going to TikTok, a lot of people are going to Twitter. And then is it possible that these, if we did a video to showcase or highlight something, can it be pushed out to all parents? So that'd be something to be interesting to hear if the IT department could do something like that without jumping through a whole lot of hoops.
You can cross post between Instagram and Facebook, and same with Twitter.
Yep. We just have to do it when you post it. So
exactly, it's just the way it's set up on your actual Facebook account. One of the other things that we need to really, I mean, big thing coming up is obviously open enrollment for next month, right? So getting all the information out to parents regarding open enrollment and expedition learning and Tech High for applications.
Yeah, our conversations are happening. Tech High definitely is already doing some work. Elementaries, our elementary school principal said we need to do something because we don't have the showcases. So we are compiling a video. So Mr. Kirby is incredibly busy right now. So the script's been written. We're going to be compiling pictures so that they're able to see everything that we have to offer in Cotati Roanoke Park. So we're working on that as we speak, and we'll be able to launch it in January. You know, just in conjunction with open enrollment, Mr. Marshall has been working with the principals, and we're getting our advertising out there so we can make sure that we can communicate it to the community.
You might be able to take some of the old clips of different videos that we have that are happening throughout the district of things that have happened in the past and make them, using that too. I don't know. But I mean, that you have live clip of kids.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's important to do is the CRPUSD has a Facebook page, and it's not, I know the PTAs, whether it's the parent teacher or the individual schools, there are so many different Facebook pages now. Some parents join HAN, but you can't join if you're not a parent. So there's got to be a way, though, that we could take the main CRPUSD page and have it push out to those other 10 or 15 Facebook, Twitter, et cetera accounts, so that they're getting that information too. The more people that start to post like that, the more you can get that information pushed out there. And it's free to do it other than a little bit of work up front. We just have to have it set up so that, because if you go out to look right now on like Lawrence Jones, LJ's website, you're going to see that one of the groups will be a closed group, right? So nobody can see anything. And then there'll be another tech or LJ Facebook page. So somehow we've got to find out what all the different entities are out there, compile that list so that when we do something, we can get it out to the parents, because all of the parents don't subscribe to the Facebook page for CRPUSD. They subscribe to other individual pages just for their school site.
Right. I think all the principals have a page for their site, and those are open. So I mean, the principals on the back end can set it up so what they post or what they want to post. So like if they made a video or something, they have a way that they can post it directly onto our site.
Yeah. And I think it could be done if there was this is the procedure for how to do it, do these 5 things. And so I think that's a good way to get it out there and get multiple views and lots of people seeing things.
Awesome. Definitely.
Oh, well, and even on the CRPUSD, you can boost an ad for a nominal fee, like $20, and you can get to 5,000 people in the community. So there's a way to do it. You can pick your age groups. You can do all of those things. Those analytics are out there, and it's really a very inexpensive way to get your message out to a broader audience in the community.
Okay. It gets into the, and that's a good point, because I watched this show called Social Dilemma, but I mean, on the standpoint, so every click that I make on my computer, someone's recording that, and they know my profile. So if we had some way of, boosting stuff to the profile of, parents with young students or parents that are looking at tutoring or whatever, that'd be and how do we do that?
Well, you do it off of you get somebody who's like Mike Kirby or Robert V., one of those guys who's really savvy with this stuff, and you just go out and if there's a particular post, like today, for example, across my Facebook came thanking Jennifer and Tim, and there was a big picture of them with the little byline. Now, there's a way that you could, as the administrator of that page, CRPUSD page, you can boost that post. So you go down and say, I want to be seen in Cotati Roner Park. This is the audience. I want it to be from 18-year-olds to 65-year-olds. And I want to pay $25 to do it. And as you toggle across what you're willing to pay for a 7-day boost, it'll tell you can pay $25 and you'll reach this many people, $50 and you'll reach this many people. You can target it to only go to women, men. You can target it to go to just Latinx community. I mean, there's all these different ways that you can focus who you want to see your message, and it's fairly inexpensive. I mean, I just boosted an ad for someone a couple months ago. I think we paid $100, and it went to like 6,000 people for 7 days. So that means for 7 days, it's going to be a boosted sponsored ad that's flying out on people's Facebook feeds for 7 days. It's pretty big, and it's less money to do that than it is to place an ad on the back of a newspaper that many people aren't going to see. So I think it's something to really look at and see if it's something that would work for us.
Another item, Yatina the Voice has offered many times to do a column for the superintendent once a month, I think.
Okay.
For free.
Yeah.
They're all great ideas.
Got him. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next slide. So as I continued to interview people and talk to leaders, and folks in the community. The leaders really felt that there was communicated a need for professional development to better serve and focus on our English learners. So that was a priority for our leaders. Also, our principals have been participating in. It started with a group last year, and they completed that cohort, and we are now sending additional principals. Is participation in professional learning communities, because what this is really a structure for teachers to work together with their leaders to study data, look at data and see how our students are making progress, and really develop goals for continuous improvement. So that is something that is that has been, the principals have been enthusiastic about, and we have additional principals that wanted to sign up, and they are participating in the Principals California Collaborative at UC Davis, and I'll be joining them in the meetings. But they're learning about that, and the first years with the principal, and then they bring in their team to work on this. But it's successful, and the principals want to do this, and we're looking at how do we incorporate this, and this becomes part of our principals meetings, where we are doing our own PLCs and learning together. And then the other comment that I heard is that when we were identified for differentiated assistance through the dashboard, it really led to more focused work in the area of math. And this was a good thing. And people felt that they were making some really good movement in math. And the support was provided by the Sonoma County Office of Education. We were provided with free PD from the county office, which was helpful. So we'll have to see when we start looking at our assessment data, how that work in math assisted us. Any other comments or thoughts or questions about professional development?
When we talked, Dr. Perez, we said something about maybe having a professional development plan too, I think.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Okay.
About
Sorry.
what? I'm sorry. No, what did you say? You talked about what?
I think we talked a little bit about the need for a professional development plan that kind of laid out a plan for development for the whole, like for a year or something, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
What I found is that people are saying we're doing some really good PD. We're participating in different things, and it's going well. And what I think is needed though is a map of where we're going. So 3 to 5 years, if we continue to do this, how are we going to monitor our success? Is the PD going well? Are we seeing a difference in our data? So really, I found that there was PD going on, but not really a plan. Who's going to the PD when? Right now it's like who wants to go versus a system. Creating a system of excellence so that we can have. So that everyone's trained and we can, make that progress as a system.
So my question on that would be as we participate and, in professional development, I would like to see outcomes and goals to improve student achievement. And I don't know how best, is that part of your 3 to 5 year plan, saying, okay, like they're saying we need to work on math. Well, so do we take that chunk of it and find out what are the best professional ways of improving that, and then install those development ideas and go forth and develop that so that we get results, and then obviously measure that to going forward. Because if you do professional development, everyone gets professional development, but until you implement it, until you get results, I don't know, what the results are. It's kind of a continual cycle process.
Right.
You define the problem, look at the alternatives, select the best alternative, then implement it and measure. So, I think that's kind of the cycle I'd like to see go forth with professional development.
Right. And
there's one thing to say, everyone has to go do 10 hours of professional development a year, but unless you implement something, I don't mean to be negative, but it's useless.
Right, and that's what we've seen about, the research indicates about professional development, that, we can send people to workshops, they can attend a lot of things, but if we're not looking at implementation, and the leader isn't saying, okay, so how are we using the skills and the knowledge and the strategies that we use in the daily implementation? Teachers are reflecting how they're doing on it, how well they're implementing, and principals. It's a collaboration, and that's where I think the PD plan would come in place, where we're going to identify the goals, do the PD, and see, and really the key piece is how are we monitoring progress, and that's something that we can certainly bring, report to the board. We took this, PD and look at our student work. So if we went to PD on writing, how's the student writing changing? So we do have to couple it with that. We don't want PD to sit out on a shelf somewhere else. And if it's not ongoing and meaningful, and we're not monitoring it and changing it up every year, then we won't see the progress. So that's the intention, is to connect it with our data.
Thank you.
We had talked about that. We had talked about that last during our when we had our board work study groups, where we had talked about the board's goals and student achievement, and it was such a big thing. But if I recall, we talked about in relation picking a thing like math and relating it to how we were going to track it and look at it through the dashboard, and in that how we were going to track achievement, and did this new program or this new way of teaching produce results, and if so, quantifiable, and how do you follow that, and all those sorts of things. So I think that was one or two on the top of our list about academic achievement tied to professional development. I believe that's the case, what we talked about. It's been a while.
Okay, any other suggestions or ideas? Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Student achievement, imagine that right next to professional development. These are definitely connected and linked. And as I talked about folks about student achievement, what emerged was that we know that there's a need to focus on English language arts and mathematics. We saw that in the dashboard. Because we want to demonstrate continuous progress, and what we're seeing is we're not seeing the progress that we'd like to see. So that work has begun, and then and right now I don't know that it's clear what the benchmarks are. So we do have some benchmarks. So I need to have further conversations with our principals to say what's working. So it's unclear to me what the benchmarks are. So I need to dig a little bit deeper and find out what are we looking, and really benchmarks should guide instruction. So we have dashboard data, which is annual data, but benchmarks is that ongoing assessment. A child is at a particular reading level, we provide an intervention, or we teach for 6 weeks, and then we look to see where they're reading within that 6 weeks. So it's how are we checking and monitoring our student achievement? So I'm not clear on the benchmarks, so I have to do a little bit digging on that. And there seems to be a lack of clarity on how we monitor student progress. So it may be happening at the site, based on our principals, and I know they're doing the PLC work, but how do we make that a part of a district practice and bring that into principals meetings, so we're having those conversations about data? So as Mr. Brown said, that we're looking at data, coming up with some actions, looking back at data, and seeing what we have to monitor and adjust to make the progress that we need. So it's that cycle of inquiry using the data.
Myra, I have a question. So I'm envisioning most of this feedback coming from teachers and principals and not so much from parents. So can you clarify when I see the statement, there are no benchmarks for student achievement for continual improvement efforts. So is this coming from our staff more than parents?
Yeah, and it's also me not like, I don't think it's clear. We have easy CBM, and we have that in the district, but what is that? So really, what is that telling us? Is that really guiding instruction? So I think my next step here is really to talk to teachers and say, do you have a benchmark that guides your instruction and informs what you need to do next. What I've heard is, no, we don't. We have these assessments that we have to do for the district, but they may not be meaningful. So I think that's where I'm at. I've gotten the feeling that we have some assessments. They may not be the best, so we need to look deeper and maybe make some adjustments to that.
Well, I mean, and how do they make the assessments now? With everything else that's going on right now, it's probably a lot harder to really be able to.
You're exactly
that
right.
in. Yeah,
exactly right. We're doing virtual assessments, and so we're assessing kids online. It may be one-to-one. In some instances, we did some in person, but very limited. So we do need to. That's one of the challenges we have. Are we getting an accurate measure of how kids are doing? Are there questions for me?
That's a great point, Jennifer. It's just, I don't know how you can even, get an accurate assessment when we're just trying to do just, the basic instructions. So
I just wonder if there's a way for us to really use this time. I mean, parents are spending so much more time with their kids, and they're learning really what it takes when they're in the classroom with all the hands-on, that I think that this could be a tool if the parent is taught how to really be an advocate for their students. Okay. It's like they have a teacher at home and they have a teacher at school. If the correct things are being communicated to the parent on tools that they could be using at home. Okay. So I don't know if that's happening.
Good point.
Very good point. And
but it will be very interesting to see what happens when we do go back.
Right. And one of the most difficult things is, we have the dashboard, right? And we were starting to be able to look at data. We had 3 years of data, so we can kind of monitor that and say, are we really making progress? Where are the trends and patterns? So the last time we administered the state test was 2018. So now we didn't administer 2019. We may, we don't know what 2020 holds. Currently we're going to administer the test, but I don't know how reflective that'll be of what our kids are actually achieving or not achieving, right? Because we've had that gap year. So it's almost like we're starting over with baseline data. So that's the kind of things that we're working through. That's why I have an interest in seeing, is there an opportunity to get some benchmarks or further define the benchmarks? And like I said, I need to do some more work in this area to see how we're monitoring that progress. And because I know we have tools, and then I always ask, are they the most ideal tools? And also that virtual setting for assessment. Any other thoughts? This is one I really want to dig into and define because it's changing right now.
Do we have teacher training set up for this year?
For teacher training in terms of just general PD?
Yeah.
We have had a PD on UDL, Universal Design for Learning. So how to take a lesson and modify it to meet the needs of the kids in front of you. So we've done that. That was well received. We were able to do that for one day. And then we do have different offerings that we are sending out, but we don't have a set plan. We've just been planning the PD days that we have.
In any of our surveys, have we asked them what kind of training they need, even if it's like short, sessions for an hour, if they need certain things regarding? I don't know.
we have. And we've gotten some feedback. One of the things that the principals have been working on is that there's going to be a day where there's going to be follow-up. So we have the UDL and we know the value of following up and saying, okay, so you've done this, what else do you need? So we're going to have some of our teacher leaders present. So maybe it might be tech support or have you. That's what's happening at the elementary level. At the secondary level, the LJ staff approached their Principal Quinn, about articulation with the high school and the elementary school. So we did some articulation on PD days so that the middle school teachers were talking to the high school teachers, and really, and it's music to my ears because it's really about that transition, and how do we bridge that gap?
It
And how
is. It's
do we yeah. So that's some of the work that we're doing. Yeah, it's some of the work we're doing, but but a little bit limited because we want to make sure that we're making sure that we're not, that we're not overly stressing people out because it's been such a shift.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
Yeah. Balance.
And then in a month or so, you might have an assistant superintendent that might be able to help you a little bit with this type of thing. It's only so many hats that you can wear at one time, in addition to the COVID situation. So
that will be helpful.
we'll get there. It's just going to take time.
Right. Anything else on student achievement? Okay. Next one is COVID planning. This is not necessarily a result of the interviews, but really it's something that we need to get done. It needs to be part of our planning because that's the current situation we're in. And I've definitely listened and heard loud and clear that communication is needed on that details of reopening. That's why I'm making a priority and meeting with a lot of groups to make sure that we're getting the information out there. Weekly updates are, hearing that weekly updates are needed. That was some feedback I got from a community member, and then that collaboration between the different stakeholders is needed, right? So we have to make sure that we're talking to staff, but we're talking to parents, and we're talking to everyone to make sure that everybody's clear on what we're doing and how things are shifting. Also wanted to add that for professional development, I didn't want to forget that we are doing PBIS, that work continues. And it's been well received, so we want to continue that work. And so we've moved on to, that's happening virtually. Any comments on COVID planning or any suggestions for me?
I think the community needs to be continually reminded, and our parents need to be continually updated as to what we're doing. So just, I don't know if that's weekly or whatever, but we need to continually communication of the current stage. I mean, people may forget that we're in the purple. And I mean, some people might not be looking at the fact that hospitalization rooms are about maxed and stuff. So just so people are aware, they're not saying, why are not the schools opening up 100%. So I don't know what level is needed to do that, but it needs to be continual. And I mean, you can't hurt to have more communication than although it's more work, but more is better in this case. So.
Right.
Hey, Myra.
Yes.
This is Tim. I don't know where this fits in or if this is relevant or useful, but just personally, one thing I would love to see, and please feel free to disregard this remark, is that I would love to see students talk about their experience with distance learning and comparing it with their experience of in-classroom learning. I would just love to hear some of those stories, even if I was listening on video or if it was written. And I think young people have a lot to share. They've been through this, and the experience was very difficult for them, but I'm sure they have a lot of thoughts. I'm sure they've been talking with each other. I mean, maybe you've already done this somewhere that I missed, but
Be helpful too in getting feedback to see, what's good and what needs improvement.
Yes. That was
Fabulous idea.
part of my favorite. I have to say that's always my favorite part of the process is interviewing students, because they were very, and what a wonderful idea to get that out there. But it was really interesting they were really, they were so incredibly complimentary of the teachers and how the teachers are checking on them. They said, you know, our teachers are checking on us, making sure that we're okay. And that was something that I wanted to make sure that, you know, we're on distance learning, you know, and academics are very important, but let's remember the fact that, you know, people are at different places, you know, and there's high levels of frustration, and it's so different from what we're used to. So, you know, and it's so good to hear the students say, you know, that they reassured me that their teachers are taking care of them, which was wonderful. But we definitely can see how we can promote that more and get those stories out more. That's great.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, the student voice. Definitely something I want to get going. Okay, anything else on COVID planning? And then, okay, the last area is governance. So one of the things that you're going to be noticing in the board meetings that we're approving a lot of board policies and administrative regulations. There's some that have not been brought to the board for approval. So we're working on that and kind of prioritizing the most important ones. And then I believe there's, you know, as we transition to a new team, we'll need to provide that support for the new governance team. And one of the things that I've discovered is that, or that I'm not aware of, maybe someone can correct me, but there is no governance book to guide the work of the governance team. So that's something that I learned in a workshop, CSBA workshop, and it's something that was something that I want to work on, because it's just nice to have a handbook to refer to, and also part of a new trustee information that new trustees can receive about our district. So we, you know, those are things that, you know, we'd like to work on and develop collaboratively, as well as, you know, to make sure that people are well informed and are, you know, understand how the group will work together.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That workshop was a little concerning when I heard some things that we weren't doing, and some things that we were supposed to do, but we didn't have the documentation. And so, yeah, learned a lot of good information. It was a long workshop.
Yeah,
but it was worth it.
I mean, that's just the general value of the conference. I mean, whether it's this or, you know, whether it's that, it's putting minds together throughout the state to improve education for everybody. So and there's a lot to do, but you know, it's encouraging that we can, you know, take information from that and to make our district better and to make the governance process better too.
Yes. Any other suggestions or ideas on this one? And what I've done at the bottom of this presentation is there's the Google Doc where I really worked on, I used this information that I gathered and discovered to develop my goals for my evaluation. I sent that to you last weekend. Hopefully you had time to review it. And one of the things that I really wanted to make a point is that this is a living document, and it's not reflective of the work that needs to be done. It's what, you know, some of the things that are real high, that really were high priority now, you know, COVID planning, communication, and that as we continue to work together, this will be revised. It's certainly not the whole thing. You know, it's areas that we want to concentrate and work on now. But we do need to talk about a strategic plan, about a vision and mission. And it was just try to pace the highest priority and then continue to add and change and revise these goals. You know, and definitely whatever you would like to recommend in terms of prioritization of the goals also.
I would also like to urge you guys to really work collaboratively as a team. pull in Michelle and Mark and give them a call, welcome them to the board, invite them to have coffee, have conversations with them, get to know them, and build your team, because your team is everything.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. We'll have 6-foot or 12-foot meetings apart.
Yeah.
But it's
You could
important.
do-
It's important to know.
It is. I mean, you could do a coffee Zoom meeting too.
Right. Yeah. Super.
Well, we've got a lot of notes here, Dr. Perez, don't we? Got our work
we
cut
do.
out.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
I told you not to ask the board. No, I'm kidding.
Always get you into trouble.
A short memory. I believe it was him that said to ask the board. Blaming Myra for.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you so much. I really appreciate this interactive process and the information you provided to me, because it really allows us to work well together and really, for me, to define the work I need to do in Cotati-Rohnert Park. This is a wonderful community. Getting to know people has been a pleasure. People will be like, oh, I'm going to come in to meet you because I wave at you when you're on campus, and so it's just lovely to meet the people and to really learn about the community. And certainly this was a small sampling, and as I continue to learn, I will keep adding that to my documents so that we can refine the work and refine the goal.
Okay.
I want to say thank you, Myra, for your openness and willingness to listen to board members with their questions or their comments, and not just board members, but I've heard nothing but good things about you from people I've talked to, that you're open, you respond to emails. I know that I've texted you on occasion, and you've responded right away. So I want to thank you for that, and I really, really was appreciative of all the principals who came on tonight and talked about the work that they've been doing in their plans. It's really reassuring. I knew they were all working very hard behind the scenes. It would be, if you just listened to some of the erroneous comments that come in, they don't reflect the reality of what's going on behind the scenes. So I really just want to say thank you to everybody who's been working their behinds off to get to where we are. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, are we ready to go to 7C? I think so.
I think so, yes.
The first reading and waive the second reading, approval of revision to Board Policy Administrative Regulations 6171, Title I programs.
Yes, this policy is being updated to reflect the requirements of the federal Title I program, funds to supplement and not supplant. And this is included in part of our local control accountability plan, and it fulfills the Title I allocations. Anyway, so basically, this is a policy that's a little bit outdated. I'm requesting that we waive the second reading simply because we have a federal program monitoring coming up, and we are required to upload this to the CDE to make sure that we're current on our policy.
Okay. Any question, board members? If not, may I have a motion to approve the first reading and waive the second reading, approval of revision to Board Policy and Administration Regulation 6171, Title I programs?
So moved.
Have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, can I have roll call, please?
Trustee Brown,
Yes?
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Nahn,
Yes.
Trustee Wilchermuth.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go to 7D. First reading and waive the second reading, approval of revisions to Board Policy Administrative Regulations and Exhibit 6173, Education for Homeless Children.
Yes, this is the policies and the regulations around the education for homeless children. Again, this policy was a little bit out of date, and we are looking to waive the second reading and get it approved this evening. Again, so that we are current with federal program monitoring.
Yeah. Questions, board members? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the first reading and waive the second reading, approval of revisions to board policy, administration, regulation, and exhibit 6173, education for homeless children.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Have a second? I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call?
Trustee Brown,
Yes?
trustee Chimino,
Yes.
trustee Gillis,
Yes.
trustee Nan,
Yes.
trustee Wilchermuth.
Yes.
Okay. We'll go 7E. For the first reading, approval of the first reading and waive the second reading, approval of revision of board policy, administration, regulation 6174, education for English learners.
Yes, this is the legislation related to English learner programs, and really it is the the California Department of Education has the English learner roadmap and comprehensive plan and policies, and this is the policy that guides the work of the district in terms of our English learners and education for English learners. We're asking for the waiving once again of the second reading. Because we need to have this ready for our federal program monitoring, which will happen in January.
Questions? Not hearing any questions. May I have a motion to have the first reading and waive the second reading, approval of revision to board policy, administrative regulation 6174, education for English learners.
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call?
Trustee Brown,
Yes?
trustee Chimino,
Yes.
trustee Gillis,
Yes.
trustee Nan,
Yes.
trustee Wilchermuth.
Yes.
Okay. Well, the next thing on the meeting is adjournment, but just a quick comment. Thank you to staff and everyone that's working hard and, to get through, every step of the way when we go through COVID. And an additional thank you to Jennifer and Tim for their services. And for Jennifer and Tim, I hope you have good holidays and stay in touch and keep contributing, because the more people's thoughts and efforts helps us out. So thank you. And with that, I will adjourn the meeting.